greetings to the Great Assembly. I wish you all abundant peaceful energy and hearts always filled with love. Today, we will talk about a very famous topic in Buddhism, which is the word dian, conditions or causes, or more accurately, tui dian, dependent arising. In Buddhism, the term used is dian sin, dependent origination, Paṭiccasamuppāda, but perhaps we don't fully understand this word, dian. As has been said, what the Buddha taught is very profound, unfathomably deep, and very difficult for us to grasp. We can only understand a part of it, and sometimes even misunderstand it. Today, we will try to hold the Buddha's hand tightly to express it correctly. Because when we understand correctly, we will practice correctly and achieve the right results. Often, when we say dian or tui dian, it's as if we can no longer handle the situation, our hands are tied. So, tui dian means to surrender or temporarily be unable to do anything. But in fact, the meaning of tui dian in Buddhism is not like that. We come into this life, and although there is an advanced human civilization, we are not taught or shown what this life is or who we are. But perhaps, if someone had taught us that in our youth, we wouldn't have listened. We weren't ready to listen and understand. And even if we had listened, we wouldn't have understood. And the number of people in this world who know who they are and the nature of life is not many. Therefore, everyone needs a journey of experience, through many ups and downs, getting bruised and battered, and then maturing in many different ways. And finally, we will also ask the biggest question of human life. Who am I? And what am I here in this life for? And as we have said, when we ask this question, it means we are standing on a precipice, at a crossroads in our lives. It means we don't want to continue going forward. We don't want to continue on that path, that job, that way of life anymore. We believe there is something much bigger in this life that we haven't known. We believe we are much bigger, although it is still vague. And we have also said that the journey of human life sometimes revolves around three basic needs. That is the desire to be loved, meaning the desire to belong somewhere. Second is the desire to be recognized. Third is to be oneself. And a part of our youth, our springtime, and even when we were young, we were entangled in the two needs of wanting to be loved and recognized. Then, after maturing a little, we suddenly realize that even if we are fully loved, even if we achieve many goals, become famous, and have power, we have not connected with our deep inner selves. For the most part, we live according to the needs and conditions of society. We follow archetypes. We have been unconsciously influenced by the collective unconscious. We chase after models, after idols, and in the end, we still haven't connected with our true selves. So, the person who has reached the stage of wanting to return to find their true self and is willing to dismantle each old, ingrained pattern that they have absorbed and lived with, that is a very big turning point in their life. It can be said that from that point, that is the starting point to go to the place of finding the answer to who am I? And what is this life? And that age is often around 40 or 50. As Confucianism says, at 50, one is said to know the will of heaven. That is, the age of 50 is the age when one begins to know the will of heaven. To know that, oh, living in this world, I don't have much power to decide. I can't be proactive in many things. I can't arrange many things. Like the spirit of the previous Dharma talk on karma, at my stage of 50. But before, at 40 or even before 40, I already knew this. It's just that the older I get, the clearer this becomes. No matter how talented I am, no matter how much social prestige I have, no matter if I'm called a successful person, it's almost as if heaven and earth decide everything. I control very little. I say that I can only be proactive about 5%. 95% belongs to heaven and earth. You who are younger are probably more confident or more skilled, you might say. I control up to 95%, teacher. I am always myself. I want this, I grasp that, I turn this and that. Then just do it. Just do it, man. And then you will gradually realize. No one forces you to realize it early. It's up to you. Duyan are the things that are not created by us, while Engip, karma, is created by us. 1, 2, karma begins with the cause, then comes the effect. But on the way from the cause to the effect, the fruit, it must be linked with what is called Duyan, which we are talking about today, to be able to bear fruit. There is never an immediate cause and effect without the contribution of Duyan. The cause alone is not enough to produce the fruit. Therefore, those who explain cause and effect by saying this cause leads to that effect in a simple way are probably for those who don't need to think much, for quick moral instruction, or for teaching children. But cause and effect can be said to be an incredibly profound wisdom of Buddhism that I myself cannot fully explain. I can only try to explain a part of the cause and the Duyan, but as for the fruit, it's impossible. No one can point out clearly that this cause leads to that fruit. And the Buddha never did that. It means that no matter how hard you try, how talented you are, you cannot control the things that happen every day. For example, With me, I make a move, and you can't block it in time. Sunny in the morning, rainy in the afternoon, sometimes serious, sometimes not. And the teacher's program, the course, also changes completely. I can't react in time, I can't grasp it. But who told you to grasp it? It's like that here. It's following the flow of heaven and earth. Because heaven and earth also use that trick. They use the trick called nothing is certain. The way heaven and earth operate is not fixed, not certain, it is impermanent. Why do we establish a contradictory way of life where we must grasp, must be fixed, must not change? That is our ignorance. Because we don't understand the laws of heaven and earth, called universal principles. We are still young and naive when we enter this life. We are still innocent. We have many fears that have been passed down through many generations. We follow archetypes. Therefore, we are always anxious. It's in every cell, every fiber of our being, that we must control, must set and achieve. The universe, heaven and earth, laughs. If you're so good, then do it. Because the way I operate is not the way you want. Duyan belongs to the universe, to heaven and earth, to everything around. You see, your life is always influenced by your parents, your loved ones, your children, by your customers, by your partners, by the culture, ethics, politics, and economy of this country, Vietnam, and of the whole world, right? Now, if Mr. Trump imposes a 46% tax, does it affect us? Does it do anything? In a few days, we might run out of vegetables to eat. They are all interconnected, so it will lead to that. Don't think it's unrelated. And the fact that President Trump imposed such a tax also has many reasons for it to happen. And that, rest assured, is not fixed either. He might change it in a few days. He is also subject to the theory that nothing is certain. It depends on many things. I believe so. In short, we cannot create the Duyan in heaven and earth. We can only create the cause, but whatever the cause, it will adapt to that. Duyan. And never underestimate the Duyan, because Duyan is both created by us and not created by us. Yesterday, we called it the collective shadow or the collective unconscious. Because we are both ourselves and not ourselves, we are both out there, the social community, all species, and all people. We can temporarily call that not us, but it creates us. So don't look down on it, don't underestimate the changes out there. If you are very good, you can only handle your personal shadow. The shadow, the darkness of what is called the personal shadow, or your own karma. But we also have collective karma, We also have to bear the common karma of the social community, of all people and all species. So how can you avoid it, right? Doesn't your current happiness depend on many conditions of support from the outside? Yes. So your suffering must also be born from the outside, right? And conversely, the outside also suffers from you and receives from you, right? This is a bit confusing, huh? But if you think about it, it's also reasonable, isn't it? And that's a fact. Don't nod your head right away. You don't understand it either. That is, it is completely consistent with the Buddha's teachings. The Buddha said to focus only on developing oneself, to live in a way that is good, that has quality. Or other traditions, especially Lao Tzu, say to aim for truth, goodness, and beauty. To live each day truthfully, beautifully, and well. The Buddha, however, says, right this moment. There is no aiming for anything. Right this moment. Be radiant this moment. Be full of energy this moment to create a big effect. I still fully admit that if I were to separate my own part from the support of heaven and earth, there would be nothing. Truly, there would be nothing. In terms of intelligence, many people are more intelligent than me. In terms of talent, many people are more talented than me. In terms of heart, many people may have a bigger heart than me. But putting all of that together, I think I was lucky to be designed by heaven and earth, or to have the right conditions created to meet great teachers, to encounter Buddhism, to encounter Taoism, and after a few decades of Buddhism, to encounter Confucianism and many other traditions, and to see this. To see that the way you are living will attract, will draw in corresponding energy levels or dian. Like cause, like dian. There is an experiment in quantum physics that I love, from Schrödinger in the early 19th century. This experiment is very famous in the field of physics. It is still controversial to this day. Although it has been concluded, people still don't understand it. That is Schrödinger's cat. Schrödinger's experiment was to place a cat in a sealed box, and in it, he placed a radioactive substance. After an hour, that radioactive substance would have some atoms decay, which would cause a hammer suspended above the cat to fall on a glass flask. The glass flask contained a type of acid, a poison, that would break and the cat would die. But the result was very strange. When they opened the box, they found the cat dead. But when they didn't open the box, the cat was in a state of being half alive and half dead. Just one state, not sometimes alive, sometimes dead. Alive and dead at the same time. People didn't understand what that was. and Albert Einstein before he could explain the problems in this world, especially in quantum physics. He called it spooky. After much debate, people temporarily came to the conclusion called quantum superposition. That is, there are two situations that can occur. Depending on the impact, the observer's impact on it, it will switch to a certain state. It could be alive, it could be dead. That impact is called quantum entanglement. That is, the entanglement is the impact. It means that the dian in this world are superimposed on each other, favorable and unfavorable, wholesome and unwholesome, stable and unstable, depending on you. This is also easy to understand. Like a brother, when you interact with him, he can be pleasant or unpleasant depending on how you interact, right? What story do you bring up? What do you evoke? Or what kind of look do you give? Or what kind of energy do you radiate to make that person react in that way? So, should you plan to go in search of success, to find all the good things in this world according to your will, with a mind full of turmoil, greed, and toxins? Or should you take care of yourself, take care of your temple, so that you always radiate the best possible energy? Then, when you are operating at the highest frequency in the present moment, the causes and conditions will automatically connect with each other according to your frequency. This is also close to the saying, "The world is as you see it." Each person will see it differently. This world is designed by you. Each person will design it differently. That person is the way they are because of your interaction with them, either good or bad. So you are the cause, and you will combine with which dian to create the fruit. And those dian are all related to the way you are radiating in the present moment. It sounds confusing. In the past, I was very fond of Mahayana Buddhist scriptures, the Mahabodhisattva, but they were very difficult to understand. Then I had to return to the Theravada Buddhist tradition to learn the most basic things, like the Vi. But though I say basic, it was precisely that basicness that made me feel like my mindset was renewed, my perspective was renewed, and I gradually shed my prejudices, my biases, my archetypes to learn to see this world anew every day. There is nothing more blissful than being able to see this world through my own eyes, not through books, scriptures, the words of a teacher or anyone else. There will be days when I see the dewdrops glistening in the rising sun, hear the birds sing, and I might shed tears because I can't believe it's so magical. It's so shimmering and ethereal. But how many people in this world praise it? People only praise those with power, those with a lot of money, those with social status, and we have become victims of that collective unconscious. And then we have also had happiness. And then that happiness disappeared, and we fell into emptiness, loneliness, and alienation, with many problems that we couldn't solve, not knowing their origin. Until, by some miracle, we landed in reality. We probably had to go through many storms and tribulations, and with the blessings of our ancestors or perhaps some remaining merit within ourselves, we attracted the compassion of heaven and earth, of the universe. And then we began to see many things. In that seeing, we arrived at deep and broad insights such as, "This life of mine is not mine. This life of mine is a gift from heaven and earth. Every breath is not ours. Every drop of water we use cannot be bought with money. Everything that happens in this world is beyond the talent, intelligence, and ability of any single person to create." In that profound insight, we will be moved, we will cherish life. And our hearts can only open up to respect everything that happens around us in our lives. And we begin to know that our lives are created by these vast things, so we will live less for ourselves and more for the vastness. On my journey of dust, a period of solitary practice, I once said a bold thing. I entrust my life to heaven and earth. After 3 months of having so many fears about the trip to the wilderness, and after many days of thinking to decide whether to continue or to stop, I thought about the lowest point, which is that I could die. And did I dare to accept death? Why did I have to accept death? It was a worthy trade-off because this was a journey that would not be easy for me to do a second time. And it would not be easy for me to have enough causes and conditions like at this time. At this time, almost everything was ready. After a long journey of cultivation, knowing how to handle my own psychological problems, I had a little achievement. The book, Understanding the Heart, was well received by everyone. Then I longed to discover myself more and to live in an imperfect, uncertain condition, and now it was happening. What more could I want? Now all that was left was to maintain a firm belief so as not to be manipulated and brought down by the darkness within, especially fear. And so, I made a bold statement. If heaven and earth want to entrust me with a mission in the future, or at least to let me live again in this world in a beneficial way, they will protect my life. It was a bold thing to say, but of course, no one from heaven and earth made a promise. But you know what? In a sufficiently deep silence, like when I could return to my sacred temple, I could hear the whispers of heaven and earth. How can I say this without being misunderstood? There were no crackling sounds, but there were signals that heaven and earth sent. You should do it. In the Siu Tran Lak Dao, living in the world with joy in the way, A poem by the Zen master Tran Nan Tong. There is a line. Siu Tran Lak Dao the Tui Dian, Ko Tak San He Contact Mean. Living in the world with joy in the way, just follow the conditions. When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep. The Master said the secret to living happily in this world is to Dian, which means adapting to conditions, following the causes and conditions. That is, whatever, Dian, has already passed, whatever has already happened, let it happen. Don't cling to it. Don't go back to scratch at it, to blame heaven and earth. And whatever, Dian, has not yet happened, don't long for it, don't wait for it, don't imagine the story of tomorrow, of next month, of next year, of the years to come. Instead, live fully in the Dian that is present. In this moment, right now and here, there are always causes and conditions happening, and those are the signals that heaven and earth are sending to you. Use them. Turn them into a valuable work of art. Make them wonderful. Make yourself happy from them and create a very good frequency of vibration for heaven and earth, for the community, for society. You must know how to make use of all causes and conditions. But in the midst of noise, in the midst of screaming, in the midst of being swept away by searching or by distant, vague thoughts, you can never hear. You cannot hear. And even the matter of you realizing the operating principles of heaven and earth, you also realize that in the silence of returning to your temple deeply enough to contemplate. In tomorrow's meditation session, we will study the chapter on contemplation, or reflection, the investigation of a vipassana meditator. In addition to developing mindfulness, we will have a part called right thinking, and I will guide that part on right thinking to reduce wrong thinking, to reduce thinking all over the place, wrong thinking, to think in a way that is effective, and to know how much thinking is enough. Then, perhaps while practicing right thinking or right mindfulness, insights into the operating principles of heaven and earth will come. And when they come in that moment, it's a change. Although it cannot change your entire being, it has begun to change. It is no longer just concepts. It is no longer just theory, but a very large impact on your consciousness. So sometimes when you are here, right here, eating well and warmly, practicing, you must know that you are under the great protection of the universe. You must have many favorable conditions. Although there are many somewhat unfavorable conditions, we have managed to arrange them, and to be able to arrange them is already favorable. So use it, turn it into a work of art, a masterpiece, so that heaven and earth will give you the next assignment, so that you will become quick in listening to the signals of heaven and earth. Zen masters say that Tui Dian is sometimes very simple. Whatever Dian happens, for example, when it's time to eat, go and eat, and focus on eating and find happiness in that eating. How to eat with gratitude, how to eat with freedom, how to eat with wisdom, then just eat. When it's time to sleep, go to sleep. Why are you still on your phone? Why are you still putting your hand on your forehead searching for your shadow? It's contradictory. Practice being compliant with the schedule, compliant with the household routine, compliant with the biological clock, compliant with the rhythm of heaven and earth. When you are that compliant, you will come to what is called dancing with all the fluctuations of heaven and earth. But every day, you just keep going against them, resisting them, eliminating them, avoiding them, hating them. You are in a very complex, very chaotic state of mind. Then, looking at you, it's repulsive. I want to connect, but seeing your face, I find you detestable. So now, let's narrow the scope. Like me, I am the guide here. I am the leader here. I am the one who created this program and am looking for soul warriors, people who will become mindful leaders or mindful healers. So what do I expect from you? I expect you to join this flow. No matter who you are. You know, there are one or two people here who haven't even finished middle school. But they are completely different. They have nothing to do with that level of education. They have many other qualities. They integrate into the flow very quickly. They have the qualities that this program needs. It's not certain that if you are a doctor, you have a PhD, that you can integrate. Because it is precisely those degrees that are the solid walls that make you doubt, scrutinize, then demand. And then you have to have an hour and a half of piano practice every day, and so on. In other words, if you are not willing to play, how can heaven and earth be willing to play with you? Even if you have a romantic relationship, the other side is also waiting to see if you are willing to play with them. Will you accompany me through the difficult stages of this life? Then we can come together. But if you are always on guard, always afraid of being taken from, afraid of being robbed, afraid of having your sovereignty taken, then the other side gets tired. I also get tired. I'm looking for someone who is willing to play, not someone who sits there on guard, avoiding, and playing all sorts of games. Because you have to have guts to get rich. Guts here means having faith in your path, faith in heaven and earth, and faith in yourself. Unless you say you have no connection to heaven and earth, to the universe. Unless you believe that you have the right to decide your entire life without any connection to the outside world, that there is nothing called Dian. Then you can live your way and do as you please. But if you believe that there is a very large influence from heaven and earth, from favorable timing, geographical advantages, and human harmony, you know that heaven and earth are the main deciders. Just like your life, do you dare say it's yours? Go on, say it. Namo Amitabha Buddha. I dare not say it. I'm afraid if I say it, I'll be struck down immediately, and won't dare to say it again. If you were in an earthquake, would you dare to say it? You wouldn't dare. When you believe so, you must push that belief into a truth. Here, we are not abandoning effort. But if there is effort, it is the effort to live in harmony with ourselves, with everyone, and with heaven and earth, not the effort to push our ego out to become a possessor, a ruler. And I believe that people with great paths, people with great influence in society, all have this insight. At the very least, they see that their individual self can only do something when there is resonance with the larger community and society. And to have the masses follow you, to be able to connect with a huge energy field, what must you be like? What are you like now? Are you in the mindset of a victim? I think I'm not worthy. If you're not worthy, then you're not. So be it. I am very worthy. Then, I am very worthy. Full of vibrant energy, of someone who thirsts for life, of someone who is in love with this life. Then heaven and earth will begin to know what to do with this person. But if that person is still lying flat in depression, since Christmas until now, that's scary over here. Then heaven and earth will either ignore them or throw them a lump to lie on. Just keep lying there, my child. Therefore, it is completely consistent and similar to the Buddha's teaching that the Buddha said to only focus on developing oneself, to live in a way that is good, that has quality. Or other traditions, especially Taoism, say to strive for truth, goodness, and beauty. To live each day truthfully, beautifully, and well. The Buddha, however, says, right in this moment, there is no striving for anything. Right in this moment, be radiant this moment, be full of energy this moment to create a great effect. I still fully acknowledge that if I were to separate my own part from the support of heaven and earth, there would be nothing. Truly, nothing. In terms of intelligence, many people are more intelligent than me. In terms of talent, many people are more talented than me. In terms of heart, many people may also have a bigger heart than me. But putting all of that together, I think I was lucky to be designed by heaven and earth or to have the right conditions created to meet great teachers, to encounter Buddhism, to encounter Taoism. And now I dare to say it. That is, now, in these later years, after the event of my parents' passing, which was also a Jian, that pushed my life further. Many things happened that were not arranged by me, completely impossible to arrange. But I always believed in my presence in this world from a young age, even though at that time, if I said it, people might say I had delusions. That is, I wanted to help the world suffer less. I wanted to bring happiness to my family members and everyone. I wanted to live a free life like the Buddha. And I just kept going and doing that. Even though there were times when I got lost, there were times when I stumbled, there were times when I made many mistakes. But then, by some miracle, I returned to that same trajectory and just kept going diligently. So, as long as I am diligent, I work hard, I am sincere about it, then heaven and earth will accompany me. So, it turns out that the favorable conditions, the benefactors, the things that made me who I am, are greater than what I made of myself. But those things that are greater than me were also created by me, because it was by creating myself that I was able to connect with those things. Therefore, always open your heart to receive all causes and conditions instead of closing it off. Instead of being stuck in some kind of mold, just blindly searching and missing out on so many values that are passing by. As in the spirit of what we mentioned today, when you are so focused on finding one thing, you will trample on many conditions of happiness that you will never know. Many values. For example, here, every day, if we are stuck in some need to be recognized or loved, if we are stuck in that, we trample on so many schedules, so much care from our brothers and sisters, so many of the teacher's lectures, so many of the rare moments that we still have here. Because tomorrow, the results of the selection will be out. Who knows? I don't even know. Really. You know, every time I make a decision, I'm also afraid of going against the will of heaven and earth, of being reprimanded and punished by heaven and earth. So every time I act and see something that feels wrong, I have to stop. If I don't feel confident or if I don't feel strong enough to do it, I stop immediately. Even if it's called an opportunity, I also think it might not be an opportunity. It might be a disaster. Therefore, whatever my intuition tells me first, if I see that it is very favorable, very comfortable, it is one of my strengths, I am very confident in making the decision, then I mostly see that it is something that should be done. It is favorable, it is a duyan that heaven and earth have brought. To sum up, we cannot create the duyan in heaven and earth. We can only create the cause. But whatever the cause, it will adapt to that duyan. And never underestimate the duyan, because duyan is both created by us and not created by us. Yesterday, we called it the collective shadow or the collective unconscious. Because we are both ourselves and not ourselves. We are both out there, the social community, all species, and all people. We can temporarily call that not us, but it creates us. So don't look down on it, don't underestimate the changes out there. If you are very good, you can only handle your personal shadow, the shadow of what is called the personal shadow, or your own karma. But we also have collective karma. We also have to bear the common karma of the social community, of all people and all species. So how can you avoid it, right? Doesn't your current happiness depend on many conditions of support from the outside? Yes. So your suffering must also be born from the outside, right? And conversely, the outside also suffers from you and receives from you, right? This is a bit confusing, huh? But if you think about it, it's also reasonable, isn't it? And that's a fact. Don't nod your head right away. You don't understand it either. HMM.IT takes many years. And when you understand, you are different. If you are not different, you don't understand. The difference is that you are very steadfast. Because you always take care of your temple, manage your karma, and at the same time have the flexibility and adaptability to go through all the changes of heaven and earth without any harm. It's not that if you keep your temple, nothing will happen. It means that practitioners like us will also have risks, also have illnesses, but the way we receive and overcome them will be different. Well, at least let's be put in the group of heaven and earth's darlings. To be protected by heaven and earth, to live a long life in this world for fun. It's a bit of a waste to go early. And if you live, you must live with quality, live well, live with value. So what are you in reality? Right now. That is your right to choose. You want to continue to be gloomy. You want to sink deep into your cravings and desires. You keep getting stuck in the victim mentality of a suffering person, a depressed person, a person who is not worthy. With that character, with that style, you know what will happen. But tomorrow morning when you wake up, or tonight you start to become divine. You walk with ease, a gentle smile, radiant eyes, a conversation, a job you do with full quality, full of faith, with sincerity and a righteous mind. Then that is the thing you can control. That is the thing you can be proactive about. The rest is the business of heaven and earth. Thank you to the Great Assembly for listening. And the wisdom of Buddhism is immense and unfathomably deep. Hopefully, there will be many more causes and conditions for us to return to the series. Buddha's hand in my hand, to have further conversations with the Great Assembly and share different perspectives. I believe that these perspectives are also compatible with the wisdom of the Buddha, making the Buddha happy and satisfied, saying, "Yes, this man speaks well," to help the great assembly open up many wonderful futures in life. Although there are still many difficulties, thank you to the great assembly.